sitting in for him, and let's go out and talk to our next guest. He works for Meadowlark Media. That's Dan Levitard's company. He's ESPN also, and the very classy NPR. Howard Bryant. He's an author. He's a Renaissance man. Thank you so much for joining us, Howard.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Let's start out, because I know you got a lot of ties to Boston, so we're going to talk about the finals, but let's get into the book you wrote, simply called Rickey. And we're all very acquainted with Rickey Henderson out here in the Bay. But why did you write a book? Why did you want to write a book on Rickey Henderson?
Well, I think the biggest reason for wanting to do Rickey was I wanted to do something fun. It's been a really difficult decade. It's been a long time in writing about Colin Kaepernick and police and protest and all of these other things. All of it very important, all of it really necessary, and it's the moment that we're in. But I also felt like there was a moment where I couldn't quite hear myself, where I was wondering if I really needed to remind myself why we watch these athletes, why we were interested in them, why they mean so much to us, and also coming off of the protest and all that other stuff. I'm also, my last real baseball book before the Hank Aaron book was also on steroids. So it was like, is there a character out there, a person out there that really can remind us why we watch these athletes and why baseball is so great? Rickey was really a no-brainer for me, and also because I started my career in Oakland. I started my career at the Oakland Tribune covering prep. So I'd been to Oakland Tech and McClymonds and Skyline and the rest, and knowing that history, I was really looking for a vehicle to really talk about how fantastic that place really has been.
Howard Bryant joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's recently authored a book called Rickey, about Rickey Henderson. I guess here's my question. If you don't know who Rickey Henderson is, my question would be, why is Rickey Henderson compelling to you?
Well, I think that the biggest reason, to me, I love the arc of the story. One, he's the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. He's the greatest base stealer of all time. But he's also one of the most amazing characters as a person in terms of blending of fact and fiction. And did this story happen, or did that happen? I think there was that, and I think there was also the story arc, the narrative arc that comes with him. How a person who really was one of the most unpopular players in the game early in his career, how by the end there's this wonderful nostalgia that people want to love Rickey, and they tell these lovable Rickey stories, and they want to celebrate him, and he's this combination of Satchel Paige and Yogi Berra, and people just love it. And so I wanted to explore that arc. And I think the biggest thing is that he absolutely obliterated the record book. Here's a guy that people do not really think of as one of the greatest players of all time. And then you look at his numbers, and then you talk to the analytics guys, and they'll tell you with the advanced metrics they use today, Rickey's even better than we thought. So he's a titan in the game. He's one of the Mount Rushmore, Mount Everest players. And to me, it was really sort of a no-brainer to give him his props.
Howard, how much of what you're talking about and what you wrote about is just swag, both in why maybe he wasn't liked, but then why he was liked, and then also, does the game need more Rickey Hendersons? Just straight up. Yeah, the talent, of course, immense and in many ways unprecedented, but just more characters, more energy, more swag.
Oh, no question. No question. I think that when you look at guys like Rickey today, there are no guys like Rickey today. Right. You think about the way that Rickey played, and people say, well, what's Rickey's legacy? And sometimes I wonder if he has a legacy now, because they don't do what Rickey did. They don't steal bases. They don't play the game with the energy the way that he played it. And so he's sort of a unicorn now, whereas previously you would think, there were all kinds of guys that there was a Rickey legacy. There were a bunch of players who came after him, the Vince Colemans of the world and the Kenny Loftons, and these guys who just really did, Harold Reynolds, guys who came after Rickey. But today, Rickey is such a unique player. You're never going to see what Rickey Henderson was ever again. They've been playing this game since right after the Civil War, and show me another guy that you can project out with 3,000 hits, 2,000 runs, 2,000 walks, and 1,000 plus stolen bases. Never going to see it again.
Howard, you got a Rickey story that came to light in this book that maybe we haven't heard?
Well, my favorite Rickey story, I don't know if it's a story as much as it is a fact, is that Rickey's career began in 1979, and his last Major League at-bat was in 2003. And to begin the 2002 season, Rickey started with the Red Sox. From 1979 to 2001, the year before he joined Boston, Rickey had stolen more bases than the Red Sox during that same period. He had outstolen an entire team. And that just shows you how good he was. That's impossible. It's really, really, it's not even hard to do. It's impossible for one person over a course to outsteal an entire team over 20 years. I'd like to see somebody give me a similar stat than that one.
Interesting. Howard Bryant joining us on 95.7 The Game, author of the new book, Rickey, a biography of one of Oakland's greatest athletes of all time, Rickey Henderson. Here's how I'm going to segue into the NBA Finals. You talked about how Rickey obliterated some records and record books. Is there a comparison to be made, at least as an athlete, with Steph Curry?
That's a great question. Obviously, in terms of the uniqueness, in terms of the playing, Steph Curry is going to be, go down as one of the most significant players, not just one of the greatest players of all time, but one of the most significant players. One of the handful of players in the same vein as Dr. J and some of the other really, really great players who literally changed the way the game is played. Not just the accomplishments, but how the game is actually played. And there are kids right now who take shots today that you would have never, ever, ever done in any other generation. He is that unique. He's that great. So, yeah, there's absolutely a comp there. I think that when you look at the NBA Finals and when you think about what what this series has been, it's been a very, very compelling series for a series where no game has gone underneath double digits in the final score. But at the same time, I really think that the Celtics were very clearly the superior team for the first 3 games and 44 minutes. And after that, have looked if not completely overmatched, they look like they've run out of gas. They look like the Warriors have outlasted them. And you would have never thought that 24-year-old Jason Tatum would be outclassed by 34-year-old Steph Curry in the endurance department. And yet that is what it looks like is happening. We'll see if the Celtics have a last stand, if they've got one more second wind, and then we get to a winner-take-all. But right now, it looks like the Celtics are finally realizing that this is their first rodeo, and also that maybe they're paying the price finally for those long series against Milwaukee and against Miami.
Howard, if the Warriors do go on to win one of the next 2, and Steph and Clay and Draymond now have 4 championships, and they hadn't won one in 4 years, and you look at just the way the last couple of years have gone with the injuries, and they were completely out of the title landscape, just how surprised are you, and where do you think this puts... Does this put the 3 of them in a different stratosphere? Does this put Steph in a different stratosphere or category as far as superstars?
I think Steph was already in a different stratosphere, and I think that people who have tried really, really hard from the beginning of his time in the league to diminish him, to tell, he has defied the conventional wisdom of basketball. And you can keep denying what he's been doing, but just like Rickey in a lot of ways, at some point the numbers defy you. You cannot deny what he's done. You can't. There's no way you can sort of dance around what he's been. And if they get this title, and it's looking like they're pretty damn close to it, obviously, then yeah, I think that I don't view it necessarily as anything more unique than what they've done in the past, because they were riddled with injuries. It's not as though they just stopped playing and suddenly got good again. I mean, they were really, really hurt, and you lose Kevin Durant as well. But I think it's an incredible testament to that team. It's an incredible testament to that group. This group knows how to win championships. This group knows how to finish, and they have done something this year. I still felt like there was no real dominant team this year, no matter what Phoenix did. This was one of those years, and obviously the way that the Lakers kind of fell off as well. I didn't look at anybody and say, one team is head and shoulders above everybody else. So I don't see it as a crowning achievement in that way, but it's absolutely to be the last team standing. It means a hell of a lot, especially to not a lot of guys walk around with 4 titles from the same team, and for them to finish this job is absolutely, top-notch dynasty stuff.
Howard, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the book, and really enjoyed our conversation.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, that's Howard Bryant. He just authored a new book, Rickey, a biography of one of Oakland's greatest athletes and Hall of Famer, Rickey Henderson. And, of course, Howard, early in his journalism career, worked for the Oakland Tribune, so he's very familiar with the Bay Area.